So in this video session, we will be learning about artificial transmutation. Name itself tells you artificial transmutation of elements. Artificial transmutation of elements mean conversion of one element into another by artificial means is called artificial transmutation of the element. So in natural radioactivity, in natural radioactive process, the unstable nucleus like uranium 90 to 235, it undergoes self disintegration and gets converted into thorium 90 231 plus helium 24 plus Q. This is natural process. In the natural process, this uranium nucleus will undergo disintegration by itself, by nature. As it is unstable, as this nucleus is unstable, this is undergoing self disintegration. What happens if you are considering a stable nucleus? If you are taking a stable nucleus like say Na 1123, or you can take C613. These are stable nucleus. These are stable nucleus, and these are stable nucleus, and they are lighter elements. Their mass number is less than 170. Its mass number is very small. It is a stable nucleus, and these are lighter elements. Whenever such lighter elements are, when these lighter elements are being bombarded with heavier massless particles, like for example C613, this is a nucleus. If you are bombarding it with one proton, it gets converted into N713 plus 0 N1 plus Q. See, atomic number is 6 plus 1, which is 7, and 13 plus 1 is, it is 13 plus 1, 14, and this is nitrogen isotope. Nitrogen isotope. N714 is the actual nitrogen, N713 is nitrogen isotope. This is carbon, which is lighter stable element. It is bombarded with proton. You are taking a proton and you are bombarding it with carbon C613. As a result, this carbon gets converted into nitrogen. Carbon is transmuted into nitrogen when it is bombarded with heavier massless particle. This process takes place only artificially, because carbon 613 is a stable nucleus. It is not unstable. Its mass is very small, and its binding energy per nucleon is also very large value. Therefore, it does not undergo any instability. Therefore, natural radioactive process does not take place. But you are inducing some instability by bombarding it with a heavier massless particle. It can be hydrogen, or it can be alpha particle, or it can be a neutron. If you are bombarding such lighter elements with a heavier massless particle, that lighter element get transformed into another lighter element. This process is called artificial transmutation. This was first discovered by Rutherford, and this experiment is first made by Rutherford. He have performed these experiments. He took nitrogen, aluminum, phosphorus, etc., and these are bombarded by alpha particles. And when these lighter elements are bombarded with heavier massless particles, they form natural radioactive substances as well. So finally in 1919, he discovered the phenomenon of artificial transmutation, where lighter nucleus will undergo transmutation to another lighter element when it is being bombarded with heavier gaseous particle. In artificial transmutation, we have discussed that lighter elements can be transmitted into another form. Say for example, you have aluminium 1327, and this is bombarded with one neutron. It gets transmitted to Na1124 star plus helium 24, and this Na1124 will undergo self disintegration to Na1123 plus 0 1 N01, and this process where aluminum is undergoing disintegration to sodium, and this star represent that it is radioactive. This star represent that it is radioactive, and this radioactive element Na1124 undergoes self disintegration. You need not bombard it with any other heavier particle. It itself will undergo disintegration. So Na1124 is undergoing disintegration to Na1123 by emission of one neutron. Such process where in artificial transmutation there forms a daughter nuclei which is unstable and it undergoes self disintegration, and this process is called artificial radioactivity. There are many practical uses with artificial radioactivity, and uses of artificial radioactivity are in wide range of industries. In medical applications, we can use these radioactive isotopes. For example, you are taking aluminum, which I have explained here. Aluminum is getting transmuted into Na1124, and this is radiosodium. It is radiosodium, and this radiosodium is used to find out how a given medicine is circulated in the body. It is also used to find out circulatory disorders in the blood vessels. This is one practical use of radiosodium. And along with that, you have radiophosphorus. Radiophosphorus is used in treatment of skin diseases. It is also used for treatment of blood disorders. These are applications of radioisotope in medical industry. Next is in geology. Geology, we can use carbon C14, which is radioactive element, and this carbon C14 is used in dating, and it is called artificial radiocarbon dating. We can estimate age of fossils. You can estimate age of rocks by using such dating mechanism. That is what radioisotopes can be used in geology. Likewise, radioisotopes are also used in determining the age of rocks by the ratio of uranium-238 and lead-206. Pb is lead, which is stable element, it is 206. So this is one more application of radioisotopes in geology. You can estimate age of the fossils. You can estimate age of the rocks by using carbon dating and as well as uranium dating. And third is in industry, we can use radioisotopes to find the wear and tear of machine parts. So usually when in industries, when the machine is continuously working, there comes some wearing and tearing because it is continuously working for many years. There may come, like it may undergo wear and tear. You can estimate where it is undergoing tearing and where it is undergoing wearing. You can estimate that using radioisotopes. And radioisotopes are also used to detect flaws in metal structures. So these are uses of radioisotopes in industry. In medical industry, medical applications, we can use radioisotopes. In geology, we can use radioisotopes. And in industry also, we can use radioisotopes. We can use radioisotopes in research. You can use radioisotopes in research. Radioisotopes are used in study of nuclear disintegrations of element. And next is you can use radioisotopes in food preservations by exposing vegetables and other foodstuff to radiations from radioactive isotopes. Their shelf life can be increased. So you can increase the life of the vegetables and as well as some foodstuff using these radioactive isotopes. That is number 5. Number 6 is in agriculture. Radiophosphorus is used to study the uptake of phosphorus by plants, and radio sulfur is used to study the transport of minerals in the plants. And in chemistry also we can use radioisotopes. Radiooxygen is used to study the mechanism of photosynthesis and hydrolysis of ester. And radioisotopes are also used in chemical analysis of solubility of sparingly soluble salts such as PbSO4 and AgCl. And you can determine and in determination of trace amounts of elements in industrial raw materials and products. These all are practical applications of radioactive isotopes. So we can use them in different purpose. That's the reason why the study of nucleus, radioactive structure, nuclear radioactivity is prominent in this modern world. Now let us learn nuclear energy. What is meant by nuclear energy? See, we have already learned about natural radioactivity. In natural radioactivity, the emission of energy is only up to 5 million electron volt. It is very small. Of course, this 5 million electron volt is not practically used for our domestic purpose or industrial purpose. So natural radioactivity have, of course, the minimal utilities in industries and as well as medicine. But we can make this natural radioactivity into artificial radioactivity, and we can grab huge amount of energy. And in this article, in this session, we will be learning how nuclear energy can be extracted using the process of nuclear fission and nuclear fusion. We already know that any unstable nucleus, it will undergo natural radioactivity. Natural radioactivity is usually exhibited by unstable elements whose mass number is greater than 170, atomic number is greater than 83. And likewise, we already have discussed about artificial transmutation. We also have discussed about artificial transmutation. In artificial transmutation, lighter elements will undergo transmutation. Just now we have discussed that. This is with lighter elements, and this is heavier elements. It is natural process. Now, if you combine these two, that means artificial transmutation mechanism, if it is made for naturally radioactive exhibiting elements, then it become nuclear fission. In which enormous energy is released. We will be getting enormous amount of energy in this nuclear fission process. Let us take uranium 92-235. Uranium 92-235 is unstable element. This is unstable. If you are not doing anything, this uranium 92-235 will undergo self disintegration. You need not do anything. It undergoes self disintegration, but the energy released in that process is very small, only 5 million electron volts. But this uranium 92-235, if you are bombarded with a neutron, this is a neutron. Neutron is heavier massless particle. Heavier massless particle is bombarded with unstable uranium 92-235. So when you are bombarding this neutron with uranium isotope, it gets converted into uranium isotope 92-236, and this is called compound nucleus. This is called compound nucleus. This already uranium 92-235 is unstable, and you are imparting some more instability by introducing one more neutron to that. As a result, this becomes compound nucleus. As it is compound nucleus, the nucleus shape of uranium 236 will undergo distorted because of its increased instability. Its shape undergo distorted, and after certain time it break into two lighter nucleus. It itself will break into two lighter nucleus. So this uranium 92-236, after attaining instability due to bombardment of uranium, its nuclear shape undergo distorted, and finally it splits into two fragments. And this splitting of two fragments will be, one fragment becomes krypton and the other one become barium 56 144 by the release of three neutrons. One neutron here, another neutron here, another neutron here, and this krypton and barium are of nearly equal mass. So whenever such process takes place, there is very high amount of energy released, nearly 200 million electron volt to 220 million electron volt of energy is released in this process. And this 200 MeV to 220 MeV of energy is practically utilized in production of nuclear energy in nuclear power stations. We can convert this nuclear energy into electrical energy in nuclear power stations. So that is the practical utility of nuclear fission, and this splitting of one unstable nucleus into two lighter fragments by release of enormous amount of energy is called nuclear fission. Nuclear fission reaction. Nuclear fission is the process where a heavier nucleus is bombarded with heavier massless particle, undergo compound nucleus, and because of its instability, the nuclear shape distortion takes place, and as a result it splits into two fragments. And because of those fragments splitting, there will be three neutrons released with very high kinetic energy. Usually it is in the range of 200 to 220 million electron volt. And the nuclear reaction can be written like this: one neutron 0 1 plus uranium 92-235 will become a compound nucleus of uranium 92-236. This compound nucleus will undergo nuclear shape distortion, and finally it splits into two fragments of barium 56 144 plus krypton 36 into 89 plus 3 neutron 0 1 plus nearly Q value, and this Q value is nearly 200 MeV. This is the nuclear fission reaction. Nuclear fission reaction. And the released energy, see, you can even check the balance of atomic number and as well as mass number. 56 plus 36, 92. 144 plus 89 plus 3 mass number of neutron totally will be added up to give 236. So the released energy is always in the form of kinetic energy of krypton, kinetic energy of beryllium, and also 3 neutrons. So always in the nuclear fission reaction, the energy released is in the form of kinetic energy of the daughter nucleus or product nucleus. So these are daughter nucleus generally, or you can call them as fragments. You can call them as fragments. The released energy will be always in the form of kinetic energy of the fragments and the released particles. Nuclear fission and uncontrolled chain reaction. Nuclear fission and uncontrolled chain reaction. So as we already have discussed, whenever a uranium 92 236 is bombarded with one neutron, it gets splits into barium and krypton along with 3 neutrons. But we cannot bombard a single uranium nucleus. We cannot bombard a single uranium nucleus, but you will be taking a uranium sample. You will be usually taking a uranium sample, 1 gram of uranium sample of, or half gram of uranium sample. If you are considering 1 gram of uranium sample, 1 gram of uranium sample consists of some m divided by gram molecular weight, which is 236, which is equal to n moles. And in 1 mole, it contains Avogadro number 6 into 10 power 23 per mole. So if you are taking 1 mole of uranium sample, it consists of 6 into 10 power 23 Avogadro number of uranium nucleus. So practically taking one single nucleus, uranium nucleus, bombarding it with one compound, bombarding it with one neutron is not practically possible. So you will be taking a sample, and that sample is bombarded with a heavier massless particle. So if you are taking such sample of uranium nucleus, there will be some Avogadro number of uranium nucleus. The process of nuclear fission takes place continuously, which is uncontrollable. Such reaction is called uncontrolled chain reaction. It is called uncontrolled chain reaction. So how does this uncontrolled chain reaction takes place? Let us see. See, you have one uranium nucleus. This uranium nucleus is bombarded with one neutron. As a result, it splits into 2 fragments, krypton and barium, and there are 3 more neutrons released. And of course, 1 more neutron will be there. That I am not indicating in the diagram. It becomes very lengthy. So only 2 neutrons released I am taking here. And this first neutron again bombarded with 1 more uranium nucleus. It undergoes splitting into 2 fragments, releasing 2 more neutrons. Likewise, this neutron is undergoing bombardment with 1 more uranium nucleus. It splits into 2 fragments by the release of 2 neutrons. These 2 neutrons again will undergo bombardment with another 2 uranium nucleus. These also will undergo bombardment with another 2 uranium nucleus. It splits into 2 fragments by the release of 2 neutrons, by the release of 2 neutrons, by the release of 2 neutrons. And this process goes on continuously. Actually, 3 neutrons will be emitted here, but I am eliminating that 1 neutron. You can even add 1 more neutron here, 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 1 more neutron here. And this is what we have started with. We have initiated fission process. Once we have initiated the fission process, you are just initiating it and it is going on. It is going on. It's not stoppable. It's going on. Such continuous reaction which is taking place is said to be uncontrolled chain reaction. This is uncontrollable because there will be Avogadro number of uranium nucleus in one sample. Therefore, this process goes on continuously by the release of enormous amount of energy. Here there comes 200 MeV. 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 And here there comes 200 MeV. Here there comes 200 MeV. And here also there comes 200 MeV. This process goes on. And this is just first generation in which only one uranium nucleus splitting into two fragments by the release of 3 neutrons. Those 3 neutrons will initiate 3 more fission reactions that become 9 neutrons released over there, which is called second generation. And these 9 neutrons again initiate 9 fission reactions by the release of 27 neutrons. And these 27 neutrons will be initiating 27 more fission reactions. Again, that will become 81 neutrons. So like that, in the first generation, there are only 3 neutrons. In the second generation, there are only 9 neutrons. In the third generation, there will be only 27 neutrons. And in the fourth generation, there becomes 81 neutrons. This process continues with multiplying 3 number. So this type of chain reaction which is taking place is said to be uncontrolled nuclear fission reaction. And in this uncontrolled fission reaction, as huge amount of energy get released, practically if this process goes on, it releases energy which is not bearable. Unbearable amount of high energy is released in the process. In order to avoid that, because when the process is going on, if the energy released is going on increased with respect to time, the temperature gets increased. As temperature increases, the surrounding region also get heated up. Because of that heating, a part of our utility, practically we cannot make use of this much high energy. Therefore, this uncontrolled chain reaction should be controlled. And how to control this chain reaction we will discuss in next article, where nuclear fission and controlled chain reaction we will discuss that after this. Now, as each step there is a nuclear fission reaction number increased. Therefore, we generally call it as reproduction factor. Reproduction factor is denoted with K. It is the ratio of number of neutrons in any particular generation to that of number of neutrons in the preceding generation. Preceding generation means previous generation. Number of neutrons in the present generation compared with the previous generation is given by this K value. If K is less than 1, the chain reaction is not maintained. If K is negative, if K is negative, then in such cases, the fission reaction after taking place for few reactions, after few generations, it ceases. It comes to it ceases. The nuclear fission reactions will be decreased and finally it become no reaction. That is what in case 1. If K is equal to 1, that means whatever the number of fission reactions taking place in the second generation and first generation, if both are equal, say for example here two processes are going on, but 2 become 4 here. If in this generation also if there are only 2 fission reactions, in the next generation also if there are only 2 fission reactions, in the next generation also if there are only 2 fission reactions, then such reaction is maintained at a steady rate and it is called critical state, and this chain reaction is called controlled chain reaction. It is called controlled chain reaction. And this controlled chain reaction mechanism is used in steady production of electricity. So controlled chain reaction is the mechanism which we will be using in order to produce electrical energy practically in nuclear reactor. And the third case is K greater than 1. K greater than 1 mean in the first generation 2 fission reaction take place. Next generation 4. Next generation 8. Next generation 32. Next generation 64. It process. This goes on increased. So such a type of chain reaction become self-sustained and lead to atomic explosion. And such supercritical state is nothing but a nuclear bomb. Nuclear bomb or atomic bomb. Atomic bomb or nuclear bomb. Already America has have used this nuclear bomb in like during the World War. They have dropped one nuclear bomb on Japan, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So that is what third process, where it is a self-sustained chain reaction which leads to atomic explosion, and uncontrolled chain reaction take place in atomic bomb. So uncontrolled chain reaction is not practically used for human growth. We will be using controlled chain reaction. So only controlled chain reaction mechanism is used in nuclear reactor, and we produce continuous energy which is in nuclear reactor. And about that we will discuss in the next video lecture.